Some heroes are born into greatness, others crawl from the dirt, bleeding, unwanted, and find greatness anyway. Duncan of Ferelden was never meant to wear the griffin of the Grey Wardens, and yet he became the sword that shielded a kingdom and the shadow that chose us all. Welcome to a special bonus episode of Echoes of Thedas. I'm your host Sevyr, currently journeying through a human noble playthrough of Dragon Age Origins over at twitch.tv/Sevyr Gaming. Today we're diving into one of the most complex and pivotal characters in all of Thedas, the man who changed the Warden's life forever. This is Warden's Call, the rise, trials, and legacy of Duncan of Ferelden. Duncan was the Warden-Commander of Ferelden's Grey Wardens for some time after the year 910 Dragon until 930 Dragon, when Earthamil rose and the Fifth Blight began. He recruited and mentored the Warden and Alistair shortly before the Battle of Ostagar. He was among the first Wardens allowed to return to Ferelden after the actions of Sophia Dryden resulted in the Order being exiled from the country. Subsequently, he faced suspicion and hostility in his search for new recruits. Now, Duncan was born in Highever, but spent his childhood between Orlais and the Free Marches. His mother, Tayana, was from Rivain, while his father, Aaron, was a Ferelden carpenter with Tevinter origins. After the death of his parents, he was forced to become a thief to survive on the streets of Val Royeaux. Growing up in Val Royeaux, Duncan witnessed a lot of death and disappearances. At one point, Duncan befriended a young female pickpocket who was attracted to him. One day she was struck by a nobleman's carriage begging for help, but was ignored. Eventually, she crawled into a nearby alleyway where she died from blood loss. Duncan was known to seek out several quick dalliances at flop houses, encounters that ended quickly after the deed was done. Barely more than a boy, Duncan broke into an inn room to rob it and was confronted by his victim while attempting to steal a ring. The man refused to give in, even with a knife at his throat. And they fought. In the struggle, Duncan unintentionally fatally wounded the man. And as the man lay dying, he thanked Duncan, to his shock and horror. The Chevaliers informed Duncan as he was being arrested that the victim was a Grey Warden. Now, when Commander Genevieve offered him a place among the Grey Wardens the night before his execution, he refused, thinking that the Grey Warden's life must be horrible indeed to thank the one that murdered you. However, Genevieve showed up the next day during his execution and used the right of conscription in order to forcefully recruit him into the order. He was not entirely wrong at first. His fellow wardens despised him, and in the months that followed, an unhappy Duncan attempted to run away several times. And he continued to steal when the opportunity arose, a habit that saved his life in Kinloch Hold some months later. Eventually, the other wardens began to accept him and revealed the truth to Duncan. His victim, the warden he killed, his name was Guy. He was betrothed to Genevieve, and the prize he refused to give up was intended to be her wedding ring. Duncan stopped running away, and his unwavering loyalty to Genevieve in the last year of her life appeared, at least in part, to have been born of guilt. 6 months after his induction into the order, Duncan was a member of the Grey Warden detachment led by Genevieve from Orlais on a mission to find the missing warden Bregan, Genevieve's brother and the previous Warden-Commander of Orlais. Genevieve charges him with a grim duty: protect their guide in the deep roads, King Maric Theron. Or, should the king learn information detrimental to the order, kill him. As Commander Genevieve put it, the Grey Wardens protect all of Thedas, not simply one nation. Instead, Duncan befriended Maric, and his actions were instrumental to Maric's survival. They then traveled to the Circle Tower, seeking the promised assistance from First Enchanter Ramil. On their first night traveling towards Kinloch Hold, they stayed at an inn where Duncan was forced to sleep on the floor next to the king's cot, spending the night shivering and uncomfortable due to the Ferelden weather. After a brief stop at a farmhold due to King Maric's orders, the party was ordered by Genevieve to double time their efforts to reach the hold. During the exhausting ride, Duncan would often complain. While at the Circle Tower, Duncan snuck around and stole a ring of keys from a member of the Tranquil. He quietly made his way through the upper levels of the tower before unlocking a room which turned out to be the room of the First Enchanter himself. There he discovered a red lacquered box, which, upon unlocking, he found to contain an unusual looking dagger that seemed to be made of obsidian. Taking the blade with him, he became alarmed when he saw a mage named Vivian appear soon after he exited the First Enchanter's room. According to her, she had taken his earlier wave to her as a sexual invitation. Duncan then jumped on the opportunity, welcoming her kiss and allowing her to bring him to her quarters. After spending some time getting intimate with Vivian, Genevieve actually caught him and brought him back to the rest of the wardens. During their mission to ascertain the fate of Bregan, Genevieve's brother who had left on his calling, Duncan, Maric, and the other Grey Wardens were confronted by a demon and trapped in the Fade. While attempting to rescue Genevieve from her dream in the Fade, Duncan was actually confronted with the happy life she had wanted to lead with her fiancé. When Duncan tried to convince her to leave, she directed the full brunt of her grief and fury over the boy's part in Guy's death directly at him. She bitterly told Duncan she thought the fact that he survived the joining was a cruel joke played on her by the Maker. She had wished him dead, and so had forced him into the joining in hope he would die after getting a taste of what the Wardens went through to protect scum like him, only to be stuck with him. Duncan was stricken at first, until he surmised that if she had truly wanted him gone, she could have left him to his execution, or transferred him to another outpost in the Order. He confronted her with the truth, and reluctantly, Genevieve left with him, escaping the fade. After they are captured, and Genevieve and Otha join Bregan to side with the Architect, Duncan frees Maric and Fiona, and together they flee from Kobaras, while Caleb Morgan, along with Hafter, stay behind to help their escape. Now, eventually, they reach the surface, but are captured by first Enchanter Ramil and being brought to the Kinloch Hold. When the Rogue Wardens and the Architect turn against each other, Duncan takes the opportunity to kill Ramil with the ebony black dagger he stole from him earlier, while Logain McTeer liberates the tower. Later, Duncan is named second in command of Ferelden Grey Wardens, serving under Warden-Commander Polara, and swears to watch over Fiona and Maric's son. At some point, shortly after joining the Grey Wardens, Duncan and a mentor supposedly came across a group of Templars hunting down an apostate male mage. The mage then used blood magic to turn some of the Templars against each other. Now, the mage would have gotten away had one of the remaining Templars not snuck behind the mage and cleaved off his head. Duncan has risen to the rank of Warden-Commander, and he did that in the year 910 Dragon, after his predecessor, Commander Polara, mysteriously disappeared one day. In the following years, Duncan was given an almost impossible task of leading the Wardens in Ferelden, a kingdom that had thrown the Order out 200 years earlier. Facing local suspicion and hostility, he set about finding recruits. Duncan appears in every origin story, searching for a recruit to the Grey Wardens to aid against the growing threat of the Fifth Blight. He will recruit the Warden either voluntarily or through conscription, and is usually available to answer questions about Grey Wardens and the Darkspawn horde massing in the Kakari wilds during the origin story. Now, Duncan arrives at the Cousland's castle looking for a potential recruit. The one petition for this was Sir Gilmore, but it is later revealed that the human noble warden was always Duncan's first choice. When Arl Rendon Howe's soldiers unexpectedly attacked the castle and were massacring the Cousland family, Duncan actually rescues the human noble warden from Arl Howe's coup on the condition that they take Sir Gilmore's place and become a Grey Warden. After Duncan recruits the warden, the two travel to the ruins of Ostagar to take part in the upcoming battle with the king's army against the Darkspawn. Duncan explains to the warden that Ostagar is an ideal place to fend off the Darkspawn, and he is certain it is where the bulk of the Darkspawn horde will show itself. Although the Ferelden Grey Wardens are few in number, all of them have gathered in Ostagar to face the Blight. Duncan believes the Blight must be stopped at Ostagar and warns that if it spreads north, then Ferelden will fall. After receiving a friendly welcome from King Cailan himself, Duncan introduces his newest recruit to the king. King Cailan has been emboldened in past victories against the Darkspawn, and even starts to doubt that they face a true Blight, since the archdemon has yet to show itself. Duncan attempts to temper King Cailan's grand ambitions with realistic expectations, while also encouraging Kaelin's enthusiasm. Duncan also gives to Kaelin a message that his uncle, Eamon Garen, wished him to deliver, telling the king that the Arl's forces could reach Ostagar in only a week's time, if Kaelin desired their support for the battle. Now, Kaelin appears cavalier and dismisses Eamon's help as unnecessary and glory-seeking. He seems confident that future battles against the Darkspawn will result in victory regardless. Once Kaelin departs to strategize with Tyrion Logain MacTyr, Duncan tells the Warden that he is concerned about the growing numbers of the Darkspawn horde. Duncan believes the horde has likely outnumbered them, and he is convinced that an archdemon is behind the massing of the Darkspawn force. However, he admits he can't ask the king to act on his intuition alone, even as Warden-Commander. Duncan would prefer that King Kaelin wait for reinforcements, especially the Grey Warden reinforcements from Orlais. The Orlesian Grey Wardens reinforcements are currently en route, though it would take days for them to reach Ostagar. Some, Tyrion Logain included, believe King Kaelin has an unusual fixation with the Grey Wardens and their legendary reputation. Even Duncan admits that Kaelin believes fighting with a few Grey Wardens makes Kaelin feel invulnerable. Since the Grey Wardens present are still so few, Duncan advises that they do what they can, and they rely upon Tyrion Logain's leadership to make up the difference until reinforcements arrive. To that end, he advises the main character that they should proceed with the joining ritual without delay. Duncan instructs the Warden to seek out Alistair and the two other recruits to prepare for the joining ritual. He tasks Alistair and the recruits with heading into the Kakari Wilds to obtain 3 vials of Darkspawn blood for the ritual, as well as recovering old treaty scrolls from a Grey Warden cache in the wilds, where they have been left under magical protection. Shortly before the battle, Duncan oversees the joining ceremony for the new recruits. Davith does not survive the ritual, whereupon Ser Jorah panics and attempts to flee. Expressing much regret, Duncan kills him to protect the secret of the joining. Despite Jorah's noted prowess as a warrior, Duncan kills him pretty swiftly, and with a single blow. An early indication of the unusual strength and speed conferred upon the full Grey Wardens. The Warden is the only recruit to survive the joining, and is informed that Kaelin requested their presence at the upcoming strategy meeting for the coming Battle of Ostagar. Now, at the War Council, soon after, King Kaelin orders Alistair and the Warden to light the beacon on top of the Tower of Ishal, signaling for Logain and his army to flank the engaged Darkspawn horde. Now, Duncan has been many things: a killer, a thief, a protector, a legend. His story is not one of purity, but purpose, of becoming the hero Thedas needed, no matter the blood on his hands. For the human noble, he was the bridge between ruin and rebirth. For Ferelden, he was the last great shield before the storm. Thank you for joining this bonus episode of Echoes of Thedas. If you enjoyed this journey, please follow and rate the podcast on your platform of choice. Share it with fellow Wardens. And if you want more deep dives like this, come hang out during our live streams at twitch.tv/Sevyr Gaming. Or follow the podcast feed directly at tinyurl.com/Echoes of Thedas. Until next time, Wardens, remember, in darkness sacrifice, in silence vigilance, in death duty.